So a little bit of time passes, you're reelected, and then January, Senator Voinovich announces this is it for him, 2 more years and he's done. What's going through your head on that now?
Well, I'm seriously considering running for that seat. The timing is a lot better for me. By the time this campaign really gets underway, my daughter will be in college. I no longer have to be concerned about turning over, giving a position to a Republican in countywide office. And so the timing is certainly better. It's a tougher race. There's no question about that. It's a statewide race. It's going to require, during a primary, raising to be competitive. I think for me to be competitive, I need to raise $1.5 million to $2 million. I don't think I need to raise the same amount of money as Lee Fisher will raise or as Jennifer Bruner will raise.
For a primary or
for a primary? Okay. I'm just talking about the primary. The general election is a different equation, because once you're the nominee, you'll get support from the president, support from the Democratic National Senatorial Committee, from the DNC. So that's not going to be as much. You'll have help in raising the requisite funds then. And especially because this will be a pivotal seat. This might be the seat that, you know, ensures protection against filibusters and vetoes. So, so there'll be the kind of support forthcoming from the national level. But the key is being able to raise the money to run an effective primary campaign. You know, I feel that what puts me, I think, in a wonderful position is that I'm better known at this juncture in Cuyahoga County than even Lee Fisher and Jennifer Bruner, having just come out of the ballot, having won by a 2-to-1 margin, a tough race in which I was outspent, didn't have the support of the business establishment and the plain dealer to a large extent because of this position I took on the sales tax issue relative to the Medical Martin Convention Center, when I opposed that as a means of funding it for a host of philosophical and practical reasons. So, so having overcome all those forces and still won by the margin I did, I'm not, you know, I think that Cuyahoga County residents in large measure have a pretty good feeling about me. And so if I can hold on, I'm not going to hold on to 60% of the vote in the primary with Lee Fisher and Jennifer Bruner, but if I could do the 40 to 50% and go into the major urban centers and engender the support that I'm fully capable of doing, I think it's a very interesting race with Jennifer, Lee, and me, and then there are other candidates who are considering it. Dick Celeste's son is considering it. So well, the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned.
That actually raises an interesting question. Lieutenant Governor Fisher from Shaker Heights, you from Shaker Heights, Christopher Celeste has a home in Shaker Heights. Should there be a Shaker Heights primary to pick one Shaker Heights candidate?
I think Shaker Heights ought to have its own U.S. Senate seat.
Or should Jennifer Bruner move to Shaker Heights?
That is ironic, to say the least.
You say you're going to raise $1 to $1.5 million.
I think that's what I would need to raise, $1 to $2 million.
What's your timetable, do you think?
Well, my timetable to get in the race is this spring. I don't feel compelled because Jennifer and Lee, both of whom are good friends, and both of whom called me yesterday to let me know that they were announcing that they were in the race. But it was kind of amusing watching them almost run over each other trying to be the first to announce yesterday. I don't feel similarly compelled that I had to be the first one in, not in this race. There's certain advantages I think I have that won't be dissipated by this spring. And so if I go, I'll be making my announcement this spring, I would imagine April or early May. I am having discussions. There were a group of pastors that have reached throughout the state that met with me, asked to meet with me on Monday and encouraged me to run. I am forming an exploratory committee. The paperwork on that will probably be done in a couple of days. I will be sending out a correspondence to some of the key influence decision makers throughout this state, advising them that I am strongly considering this and just asking them to keep their powder dry until a decision is made and not to jump in the fray on one side or another too soon without knowing all the potential candidates.
You know, I find that Ohio is probably like a lot of other places in the country where you've got a lot of folks who are very politically cynical about every single move that people do.
Well, I think there's a general cynicism about politics in general.
Agreed, but a lot of times you hear these comments that so-and-so is really running for this because he wants that.
Okay.
I've already heard the talk. Peter Lawson Jones is not running for Senate. He's really
Angling
toying
for
with it because he wants to be
Lieutenant Governor,
right.
Secretary of State, or that. Well, that's it. That's, you said you're going to have some tough questions for me, some honest questions.
And we're not the
During
play
the,
dealer.
and it's interesting because during the course of a campaign, you never know how things are going to work out. But when I pick up the Plain Dealer today and I read that there's no guarantee that Governor Strickland would offer me Lieutenant Governor, so I'm definitely not interested in Secretary of State. I'm not interested in that. Lieutenant Governor is a wonderful position. I think that from that vantage point, that platform, you could run for governor. However, the names I read he's considering didn't include mine. And so if I get in this U.S. Senate race, it's to win the Senate seat.
And you'd have a safe seat back here, so you really have nothing to lose at this point.
In that respect, no. Oh yeah, but there is something to lose. Because when you commit yourself to this kind of campaign, all the other things that are important to you in life go on the back burner. Because if you're serious about winning in the state of Ohio, let's be honest, the state of Ohio has never elected an African-American U.S. Senator. Matter of fact, only 2 states have done it since Reconstruction. So if I'm going to mount a serious campaign, this is going to require an immense amount of energy and an absolute focus and commitment in terms of fundraising, crisscrossing the state, building your coalition, lining up your support. Well, this is not something that you toy with lightly.
You ran for lieutenant governor in
1994.
94. You know, one of the arguments that people will probably say against Peter Lawson, or make against Peter Lawson Jones, is look how bad that ticket performed on the ballot. What happened that year?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. 2 things. And the lieutenant governor, you know, is a wonderful position. If the lieutenant governor doesn't get credit when the candidate wins, shouldn't get credit when the candidate loses. The fact is that my running mate, Rob Birch, certainly a gritty and smart state senator and lawyer, did not do. And the leadership comes from the governor's position, not lieutenant, did not do what was necessary to be competitive. But we're also running against George Voinovich, who was probably at his zenith of popularity at that point. But the gubernatorial candidate in particular has to raise a certain amount of money, has to have a certain kind of profile and charisma, and that just wasn't there. You know, many people have said, if it weren't for you being on the ticket, the Democratic Party might have even lost its status as a major party.
You were only a few percentage points away, right?
Right, absolutely. So I tend to look at that. I'm not, you know, that's, people ought to look at all the races I've been in since then that I've won, where it was me solely and exclusively on the ballot, where it was my responsibility, and I determined whether we won or lost. I was outspent in 1996 when I ran for state representative. Probably 2 or 3 to 1, won that with 61% of the vote. And every district I've always represented has been primarily European American. African Americans have been the minority. So I think when you look at when I beat Pat O'Malley amongst the precinct committee persons with over 60% of the vote, beat Jamie Pilla when my first election for county commissioner. He spent $1 million. 500,000 or 600,000 of it was his own. Beat him with over 60% of the vote. I was outspent again by Debbie Sutherland, who enjoyed the support of the business community and the local media. Beat her. Had 63% of the vote. So if somebody says, well, he was part of a team in 1994, and I believe we Democrats lost I think we lost all the seats that year. You know, that doesn't rest on my shoulders. That one ain't. I'll take responsibility for defeats that I've suffered where I've been responsible. So I think it's pretty easy to counter that argument. If that's the best argument they can offer, you know, I've got a track record that extends for the next 14, 15 years after that shows that I am quite capable of winning an election, even when I'm the underdog in terms of who's better financed.